Hello, fourth grade historians, and welcome back. I am Mrs. Lamondo, here to bring you our next lesson in our immigration unit. Today's lesson is going to be spread over the next 2 times we see each other, and we're going to get a better idea about what happened with the people who were detained to the hospital. So let's get started. So today we're going to talk about the Ellis Island experience. So first of all, I want to share with you a passenger search. Who came through Ellis Island? What do I need to access the information? So you can go to the Liberty Ellis Foundation. If you think you have a relative who immigrated through Ellis Island, or if you're just interested in searching random names, this is pretty cool. So let me click on the link and I will make this available to you as well. So here we see a passenger search. So I'm going to go ahead and use my last name, Lamondo. And when I see all of these names, look at this, how interesting. Everybody with the last name Lamondo who immigrated through Ellis Island is here. Now we see a lot of these people are coming to us from Italy. Now that's pretty common as it is an Italian name. My husband's family is Italian. But how interesting is it that you can actually see what ship they came on, where their last place of residence or their birthplace was, and also the year in which they arrived. We will make this website available to you if you would like to check out the Liberty Ellis Foundation for yourself. It's pretty cool. Beyond that, let's get to what we were going to discuss today, which is what actually happened on Ellis Island for those people that didn't immediately make it through the inspection. So let's start with the Ellis Island Hospital. Now, we know that Ellis Island has been restored to its full greatness and is now a museum. However, the Ellis Island Hospital has not been restored. There are people who believe that it should be, as it is such an important part of America's historical story. So as we look at this, we're going to see that it's pretty run down. Also, we're going to see that an artist did an amazing thing and actually took images, real-life pictures of immigrants, and kind of made them almost look see-through and hung them up as an art exhibit around the hospital. So it might look a little bit spooky, but it's kind of cool to realize just how many people were impacted by staying at Ellis Island Hospital.
$12.5 million immigrants passed through Ellis Island. That's 12.5 million stories. Some of them are great stories, some are not so great. 2% would turn back, and they would turn back primarily for health reasons. First and second class passengers were actually examined aboard the ships, the steamers, and they were released when they ported in Manhattan. The third class passengers, of course, had to pass through here. They had to be able to work in the jobs they were trained for. They could not be charged a state. The government wasn't about to take care of these people. Between those doors and the second floor, there were doctors stationed along the way. All they did was observe. If they saw someone breathing heavy, ashy complexion, limping, they yanked them out, sent them over to the hospital for further examination. They could have been in the hospital anywhere from 3 to 4 hours to 18 months, depending on their illnesses. Oh, I suspect a mental defect. They put an X on you, they sent you there. That's a psychiatric ward. The full flavor of the morgue. If you passed away on the island, there was no one here to claim your body. You wound up here as a specimen. Doctors came from all over the United States because they had seen diseases here they had never seen before. This was the place to learn. There are 2 diseases that I call nuisance diseases because they're extremely contagious. Trachoma. What trachoma is a polyp that develops on the underside of the eyelid. Favus It's a fungus. And you'll see children with their heads wrapped on the island.
Many guests come to New York, they go to see the Statue of Liberty, and they don't know the story of Ellis Island. And a lot of people don't know what these buildings are, so they think they're a psychiatric hospital, they think it's housing. So when they come in, you can actually tell them the story of where in America set up a world-class healthcare facility to treat Europe's poorest of poor. It's a wonderful story to tell. You know, for people in other countries, they see what America does to preserve this heritage. The people in the United States, they see this important piece of architecture and work that was here, and they ask, why aren't we saving? What are we doing? What can we do to keep these buildings standing, to be able to tell the stories of the men and women who worked here and the men and women who were treated here.
Nancy Davis's father was a psychiatrist stationed on the island, and she lived on the island. She was a child, like 9 or 10 years old, and she actually lived in the doctor's quarters. And I had the opportunity to bring her over there in 2009. And when I brought her into this one room, their living room, she got very emotional because she showed me a photo of her mom and her brother and her sister in that room in front of the fireplace. I think money should be set aside by the government to actually refurbish the space. It needs a lot of work, and I really feel that the government should take the time out because it's a national landmark. You know, it's part of the American history. How many immigrants? 12.5 million immigrants came to Ellis Island. That's a lot of Americans, a lot of future Americans. And I think it's very important to keep that history and to tell people about that history. They should know their roots. They should know where they came from.
You don't want to think you can restore it all at once. You know you're competing with nature. Nature's going to want to take this land back. So what you do is you focus on taking care of it, make sure that any problems that arise, you manage the areas where you can kind of raise the needed money and then restore that area. And then you also want to restore things as they once were, but then others you want to keep them where they are today in a kind of a state of arrested decay. Yeah, you want to come here and you don't want to be on a tour of 50, 60 people. You want to be able to see the spaces. And you also want to enjoy the peace and quiet, the solitudes here. When he approached the Park Service about installing his art here, I'm sure it must have been very strange for people to make the choice about allowing him to do his installation. For the most part, everyone loves it. It brings a sense of context to the people here. You see people in the buildings where instead of seeing empty rooms, you see people. You also get a sense that someone modern has been here, so you feel it's a sense of others have explored these spaces and wanted to do something with them. What I find was wonderful about what he did is he looked at the space and saw how wonderful the space could be used for the purpose of art. And so then he found a permit grant that seemed to work well in that space. So when you stop, you look at it, you start to ask yourself, why did you choose that? What's interesting about this? So you start to look at the faces. Rather than walking through the museum, we see many, many pictures here. They're not every 10 feet, so you can stop and look forward to seeing the next space. But he will be back in 2017 to install another piece.
Every time I see that, I'm reminded of how I want to see if he was able to install more pieces. So again, Ellis Island Hospital, they're really trying to restore it because it is such a piece of history. So many people came to America suffering from health conditions, and the United States government treated them and then allowed them into our country. So a super important part of our immigration story. And just a reminder that even if you were sick, you could be detained to the hospital and still get in. Many people think that so many people were turned away. No, that's not true. If they could let people in, they wanted to let people in for sure. All right, let's look at a story that we're gonna, actually perhaps we'll do that next time. Let's take a look at one more thing, Ellis Island, then and now, and then we will look at our reading passage next time we see each other.
I don't know if that's something to be proud of, but I have the dubious distinction of being the last resident of Liberty Island, yes. Walking around the island at night and looking up at the Statue of Liberty. It's quite an experience seeing all the different ways she changes. Some nights she's actually a little bit blue as opposed to green. I had two sets of grandparents that came through Ellis Island. I wonder what they would think if they found that their great-grandson was going to be the steward of the Statue of Liberty in Ellis Island.
Welcome to the Statue of Liberty.
Think about going to a different country. You may not speak the language, and they show up. Everything that means the world to them is in this one or two bags that they're carrying. And they're told to drop those bags and go upstairs to be processed. And they never even know if they're ever going to see that picture of their parents or their children that they left behind. They're relying on their faith that everything's going to be okay because this is a country that they want to come to. It's been reported that we've never lost a bag on Ellis Island. I guess the folks today could learn a thing or two about keeping tabs on bags.
Everybody came from someplace in America, except the Native Americans. And it's important to keep that alive, I think. I don't know that our generation would be as gutsy as they were to come. My grandmother was 20, and she never went back to Italy.
Okay.
I don't know why, but I got emotional when I saw it for the first time I was crossing. And I think it was just part of history, it being there, and it was an emotional moment. I mean, even me being born here, I guess I put myself in the emotion of all the people that came by boat, and the first thing they saw was this statue, in a sense, welcoming them to a new world, to freedom.
Right here at Ellis Island, this is where my family became American, quote unquote. My parents immigrated here from Hong Kong and China to be able to tell their story by using the site as a focus. I just love it. I mean, there's just no way around it.
Our ancestors came over in 1914 from Lithuania. When we walked up the steps, it gave you the chills down your spine, kind of what they went through when they came on the boat and came up here.
During our peak immigration period at Ellis Island, we would average between 8,000 and 10,000 people a day. In our biggest visitation, we processed over 12,000 people. Today, our visitation during the summer is between 18,000 and 22,000 people a day. So we welcome quite a few more people. Of course, we don't process these people other than put them through security. October 29th, 2011, we had closed down to do some life safety renovations. Fortunately, when Sandy hit, none of those upgrades were damaged, but our entire infrastructure were all destroyed. While it was a very sad day for us, we quickly realized it was also an opportunity to make this a more sustainable park. It was also kind of moving in this devastation to see the statue standing there, the flag still flying, proud and defiant, and no storm was going to bother her.
Wow. So just a little look at what it was like to be detained to Ellis Island Hospital, and also how the National Park Service is trying to preserve this part of American history. There is no Google form today. Tomorrow we will be reading a story all about someone who visits Ellis Island and her experiences there. All right, fourth grade historians, until next time, I'll see you then. Bye.